Hey everyone, it's Melissa with Goal Driven Counseling. Today is time for Taking the Wheel Wednesday, but first we are going to acknowledge that last week was the Thanksgiving holiday, and we know the preparation for that with shopping and cooking and preparing the home for family members to get together and whatever that may bring. Then Black Friday the next day, then Cyber Monday on Monday, Thanksgiving can be one of the holidays that is very, very stressful. And so we're going to talk today about the topic around the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to stress. I also want to acknowledge and apologize right up front that my voice is only halfway here, so it might crack and go out and I might cough, but excuse me ahead of time. So let's hop right into it. So when we talk about stress and say the word good with it, how in the world is that even possible? So when we talk about stress is our body's response to some type of situation that is heightening or increasing the internal experience. And so typically stress gives us like a fight or flight response. If you think about last time you were driving down the street and you heard like an ambulance and you saw these sirens behind you, your body probably even subconsciously probably tensed up a little bit and you started to check your mirrors and to figure out like how you can get over to the right because that's what we're supposed to do. So that's a very simple example of stress that your body felt, but then that your body has been trained to respond in a certain way. And so everything that we, the way in which we respond to things in life is all learned. Everything is a learned behavior. So when it comes to stress, when we think about when we learn to get over and respond and to check our mirrors and all those things, when stressful things happen, we actually need to go through that to teach our bodies how to best respond. It helps us to increase our critical thinking skills, our problem solving skills. It helps us to practice our emotional regulation. It helps us to de-escalate and all those things. So if we never experience anything, our bodies would never know how to properly handle and respond to that thing. So when we're stressed, a good thing is that when we respond to it appropriately and when we work through solutions for it, our body now knows what to do in that situation, and it also builds our resilience. So what about when stress is bad? So when we feel stress, what happens is our bodies release chemicals. And so two of the chemicals that we most commonly hear about are what's called adrenaline and cortisol. And so those chemicals are released in our body and they kind of like scurry around in a very fast motion, like bumping into each other. Research has also told us, though, very recent research has told us that about between 40 to 60 different chemicals are actually released in our bodies when we feel stressed. And so when you think about an internal experience of kind of all these different things going on, that's a lot. That's a lot for our bodies to handle. So our body is responding to this situation. We have these chemicals being released. And so if that happens sometimes, every now and then, like I said earlier, our bodies are being taught how to effectively respond. So a good thing. And that's something that we call like routinely stressful kind of situations. But then we have what's called chronic or acute stress. And what that means is that these chemicals that's being released in your body, the tensing up, whether you're conscious of it or not, and just the experience that your body and your mind goes through when you're stressed, if we are acutely or chronically stressed, which means this is happening all the time, our bodies don't get any recovery time. And so we are in this heightened response mode and all these things are happening and our bodies are getting worn out. They're getting tired and they are enduring an experience that it wasn't meant to endure for long periods or prolonged periods of time. And so that's when stress can get bad, when it becomes acute, when it becomes chronic, and then we start to have all these other things happen to our bodies that are signaling to us we're a bit stressed out. So this takes us to the last section of, well, when does stress get ugly? And so stress gets ugly when we start to experience a lot of different things. And it can be physiological, it can be emotional, it can be mental. Stress affects us on every level. And so some examples of some effects of stress are frequent headaches. It can be the migraines that never let up that you experience and kind of tend to normalize because you're just used to them happening. It can be sleep changes, it can be appetite changes, and that can be either increasing or decreasing. So sleeping more than normal or not sleeping at all, having difficulty falling asleep or not being able to stay asleep, or sleeping all day long. It can be overeating, it can be not having an appetite, it can be off and on appetite. Some other responses to stress can be breathing problems, and so we call that hyperventilating sometimes. Some things can be some heart problems over time. It can be development of like diabetes and high blood pressure, and just kind of all these prolonged things. Also, stress can be a huge contributing factor to the development of a depression or an anxiety mental health diagnosis as well. In this holiday season, in just your everyday and your life as it is, when it comes to work and family and obligations and kind of all these things that you have going on, be very, very aware of the stress that you experience, how to effectively respond to it, and tend to your own self-care so that you don't get to that ugly stage. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I can't wait to see you all again next week.